Geeks worldwide, welcome. Oh, am I getting an echo already? It sounded like I'm sorry. That was a very anticlimactic opening because it shouldn't have been. I'm sorry, guys. Welcome, guys. I'm so excited to be here for episode 1 of our brand new show, the Geek Side Podcast, and I couldn't be more excited to see what crazy geeky debauchery this show is going to bring to the Geeks Worldwide channel. And you know what? I just real quick, we decided to reboot the show and change things up. And so Mr. Deron Generally and I, we decided we want to keep this show as loose and fun as possible. We're definitely going to be expanding on just the geek world in general. We're not necessarily going to specifically focus on comics. We're just going to talk about anything geeky, and we hope to kind of get back to basics of some of the things that made the Capes Crew podcast really fun in the early days, and hopefully we plan to bring a lot more guests back to the show. And of course, we had to bring a new co-host to the show, and we'll get to her in a minute, but I want to say hello, Deron, and welcome to episode 1 of the Geek Side, man. Are you excited or what, bro?
I am. I'm very excited. I'm excited to do something different. I'm excited to just be kind of loose and talk about all things geek. Yeah. And I'm looking at this whole thing with my face I've been growing this thing out, and I don't know why. I thought for a second I was gonna like cosplay as Luke Cage in prison, but it's just gotten insane. I'm literally looking like the guy on the internet. So I don't even know what I'm going to do with this going forward. But I'm excited.
You're just started. The guy on the internet, man.
Exactly. I'm literally cosplaying as stereotypical internet guy. So.
Yes. The guy in the chair, bro.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm the guy in the chair. Oh.
It's good, man. I'm excited. It's got that it's like that first day of school, man. You don't know what's going to happen. When you first day you're driving around your new car, like let's steer this thing right, okay? But we still got to have fun.
All right.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I am honored and excited to introduce our next co-host for the evening, and hopefully she will decide to stick around with us and grace us with her lovely presence. This person, it's hard for me to try to describe her in few words because she's one of those people you can't describe in a few words. She's one of the most amazing, geek-centric, talented people that I have met in my entire life. She has done everything from modeling to blogging to on-air personality. I mean, you name it, she's done it. And above all of that, yes, but not porn. And above all that, I have the distinct honor of being able to call her one of my best friends in the whole world. She was my groomswoman at my wedding. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Christina Tellefson. Christina, welcome to the show, my friend. I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here and to do this podcast with you. You're one of my best friends in the whole world. And so cool. I am the biggest nerd in the world, so I'm excited to talk about nerdy stuff.
Christina, Deron and I have been talking that we desperately needed to get a female voice back on our show. And you were definitely one of the people that immediately popped in my brain, and I was hoping you would have time, and I'm glad you did, because I mean, you can school me in pretty much every realm of the geek world any day of the week, no question. There's not even a question about it, okay? Maybe Iron Man, I might have a little edge, but that's about it, okay? So having you on the show and bringing your knowledge of the geek world, comics, shows, all that other good stuff is going to be an awesome asset to our new show. So without further ado, we're going to talk to you a little bit before we move on to the rest of the show and kind of let our maybe new listeners or people who are following us from the old show kind of get to know you. So we'll ask you the old cliche question. Tell us how your geek journey got started. What was we'll say your earliest geek memory maybe, or one of the first things you uber geeked out about?
Oh man. Okay. Well, my first geek memory really is watching Return of the Jedi with my brother, and I was probably about 2 or 3 maybe. And it was, for me, Star Wars, for those of you who don't know me, Star Wars is my true love.
Yes.
So that
if you're not watching, Christina even has her Jedi costume in the background behind her.
Yeah, so you can definitely see it in the background.
My friend Lonnie made this for me, and it's absolutely gorgeous, and it's my favorite costume. Yes. But I live and breathe Star Wars, so there was that. Going through my brother's stacks of comics, and he had all the Wolverine comics, which are now mine.
Yes.
And which is funny because Wolverine's not even my favorite, even though I'm wearing the shirt. He's not my favorite X-Men, but still love them. Gosh, watching the X-Men, the animated series, watching Gargoyles, watching all those fantastic Saturday morning cartoons. Yeah, I've always been a geek since I was a toddler. I just fell in love with it before I could even speak.
That's beautiful, Christina. I gotta ask you, because you're a fellow cosplayer. What would you consider your first, cosplay costume, like your first real big, like detailed costume?
So I'm not sure if this entirely counts, but the first costume I did myself was a Jedi costume, which I think I made when I was a sophomore in high school, whenever episode 1 came out. And I basically closet cosplayed it. I pulled whatever I had that was tan out of my closet. I made these boots out of like scraps of fabric, and my aunt made this cotton Jedi robe for me, which I still have. And I loved it so much. And my first official con cosplay, though, was Harley Quinn.
Okay.
And also Celeste from Final Fantasy VI. She is my favorite Final Fantasy character.
Now, when you say Harley Quinn, did you go for the Batman animated series version? Were you more like comic Harley Quinn? Yeah.
Oh, animated series. I wanted that costume when I was 9. And my mom did not know how to make it for me, but I wanted to be Harley Quinn since I was 9 years old.
The rigors of costuming that we put on our loved ones and parents to make us costumes. And I'm like, what do you want me to do?
My mom's like, I can't do that. I can hem stuff. I can't sew this skin tight costume for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. It's not gonna work.
Well, see, you all kind of have an advantage in that arena. Like, I grew up in the era when, costumes were like a plastic bag with like a Batman symbol drawn on it, and like a mask that
really
just
creepy masks,
those really creepy masks that cover your face that were never cut out just right, so that always like cutting up under your eyebrow.
And then they would cut your eyelids too if you blinked too hard. Like they were so sharp. Why is it sharp? This is for a child.
Right. Thank you. It's just like maybe a little barrier, just a little barrier. So I'm continually impressed with just the evolution of cosplay, especially in the last like 15, 20 years, when I've in essence kind of aged out of the system, as it were. But I love seeing just the dedication and the detail on people who actually like put the time and effort in.
It's so much fun.
When Christina was last visiting in town, she was working on one of her costumes for Comic-Con while she was chilling on my couch. So that's like, she's like, I brought stuff to work on with me. We're on a time crunch, people. We gotta get this done.
We can visit, and I have to work.
Yes, that's a cosplayer's life in a nutshell, right there, Darren.
It is not a con. It's not a con if you're not bleeding on your costume and sewing crap onto it an hour before you're supposed to walk on the floor. That's how
I love his character so much. Right. Oh, it's good moment to pause, guys. Here's a toast to episode 1 of the Geek Side podcast, and thank you for joining us, and to the future of geek craziness.
No corporate logos.
That's right. You have to protect the corporate entity. Hide it. So,
well,
Christina,
if I'm designated driver this evening, so
okay. We always have to have one of those, even when podcasting. Christina, what's your proudest geek moment? Like the biggest thing you've done, or just the coolest thing you've got to do in your geek career, we'll say.
Oh, that's hard. One of the coolest things, I was talking to you about it earlier, actually.
Yes, please tell the listeners about this.
I don't have it with me. It's in the other room, but there's an action figure of Andrea that Skybound produced from The Walking Dead, the comic book version, not the TV show version, because she's terrible, people. The comic book version is amazing. Unofficially, they modeled her after my face. So when you look at the figurine, it's totally my face. And that's probably, like, I unofficially have an action figure. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
I don't got no action figures. I don't know if Darren does.
No, I don't. I'm an action figure. My thing.
It's all good.
I'm an action figure to my kids. That's about it.
Christina, besides Star Wars, what would you say is some other geek passions of yours?
Ooh, Firefly.
Okay.
And The Walking Dead, yeah, absolutely. I've loved that comic since day one. Unfortunately, I did not start collecting seriously until like in the 30s, like the issue 30 or so, which is a bummer because issue 1 is worth so much money. But I'm slowly trying to collect all of them back now. I like the show, okay, but it's not my thing. Like for you, the show is you love the show more than the comics, and I'm vice versa.
First introduced to it, so yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, I do like the last couple seasons have, in my opinion, been great because they're sticking to the source material. So yeah, but I like the comics better. X-Men, anything Marvel related. I'm starting to get back into DC a little bit. I was boycotting them for a while for personal reasons, but they're starting to pull me back in. Wonder Woman was a good start. Yeah. Yeah. I just like a lot of nerdy stuff. I video game. I play paper and pencil games.
Christina, typically what kind of video game tickles your fancy typically?
It used to be RPGs because Final Fantasy was my favorite. I'm really liking strategy shooter games, I guess. I don't really know how to describe the genre, like Last of Us, where it's not really a first-person shooter. Yeah. There's a lot of strategy involved in it. Uncharted is actually one of my favorite game series too, because I like to try to find treasure. I'm a completionist, and you can actually complete those games. Fallout. I've been playing a lot of Fallout because I can't complete it. It's like a never-ending. So whenever I'm like, I don't know what to play today, I'll just do this one side quest for 12 hours.
Right.
That's how it happens.
Sounds great. It's good times. That's so awesome. Deron, do you have any questions for the lovely Miss Christina before we move on to the next segment of the
show? I'm just listening, but I'm definitely with you. I was definitely more of a Walking Dead comic fan than a television fan before. I said definitely probably before the last couple of seasons. Like it took me a while to kind of to just kind of soak it all in and basically catch up to everybody else, because I was reading the comics. I had the world of The Walking Dead. Because then everyone got got wiggy and weird about what happened with at this point I was just saying what happened with Glenn, and I was just like, well, but it's right here. Like it's right here. Right. I'm reading as I've read it. I've read it before.
It was actually worse than the comics. I promise.
Right, thank you. I was just like, so yeah, I'm definitely with you. I was more the source material is always the first thing I go to.
Because it's so good. Like, why mess with a good thing? I mean, like I said, the last couple seasons, in my opinion, they've done a great job, especially with Negan. I can't think of a better actor for him. Honestly.
Yeah, Jeffrey Dean Morgan is amazing.
But I had to stop watching around season. No, nobody. He was the best. Which, I mean, like I said, with Andrea, like they ruined my favorite character in the show. They absolutely decimated her character in the show. And it's now that she's not in the show anymore, I can kind of enjoy it. And then her path with I guess it's spoilers for people that aren't reading the comics, but not really because it's been out forever. But Michonne in the show is now taking basically Andrea's place because Andrea and Rick are together in the comics. So but I like it. I like how they're doing it. They're doing a great job. So yeah.
Christina, for future ref, you can swear on the show, so you can tell the listeners what you really feel about Andrea in the show.
Oh, she was a fucking twat. She was terrible. Oh my god.
Okay, I was gonna say, so there was this air of you holding back, and I just was gonna wait.
That's what the booze is for in my Boba Fett pimp goblet. It will help me tear down those walls of not giving a fuck.
Exactly. Give none. Well, Christina,
vintage of no fucks given.
Exactly. Christina, I'm so excited, like I said, to have you here, and we're gonna get to talk into some geek stuff right now. Yeah, there it is. Booyah. So I've told Deron that we have to keep this pretty spoiler free, especially because the show hasn't even come out yet. But some lucky folks over at the GW Dubs got to check out the first 4 episodes of the Netflix series The Defenders, which it comes out in what, Deron, like 7 days, 8 days, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's coming out quick. Coming out the 18th.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And Christina, I'm sure you've seen all the other Netflix Marvel series, correct?
The only one I haven't seen is Iron Fist because I could not get past the first episode.
Yeah, you know what? You're kind of in the not minority on not being a huge fan of the Iron Fist, but
it made me sad.
but Deron, seeing the first 4 episodes of The Defenders, talk to us about your initial thoughts on the series, and are you excited for the rest of it? Are you already feeling like there's something you wish they would have done differently? Tell us what you're thinking, man.
Oh, I actually kind of like how it's building. Like the first episode is I wrote a review of the first episode, and the first thing I told people was like, look, if you're expecting a huge knockdown drag out in the first episode, you're going to be disappointed. There's a lot of exposition, but it is exactly what you would expect from the beginning of a mini series. Like you want to see where the characters have progressed, what they're doing now. I like the fact that the co-stars from their individual series are popping up just as part of the world, but there's not like it's not like, oh, hey, there's Misty Knight, or hey, there's Claire Temple. There's a reason for them to be there.
Sure.
And just even progressing on, the thing that brings them together makes absolute sense in the world that they've created on Netflix.
Absolutely.
So nothing seems forced, and I like the fact that even getting to the 4th episode, you don't know whether or not they're gonna save the day or kill each other, and I actually kind of like that dynamic. Right. I like the fact that these are people that are not going. I think even at the end of it, they're not necessarily going to be friends.
Right.
And I'm absolutely.
We're not going to have an Avengers situation where we all move into a Stark Tower together and throw shawarma parties. It's not going to be that kind of scenario.
There's not going to be an Agent Coulson that brings them all together.
Right. Yeah. Deron, I definitely agree with you. I like the tempo of where the show is starting out. It's like you said, it's definitely a little bit of a slower start. There's not going to be that big crazy moment like you said, but I felt once I got to episode 4, it was really starting to hit its marks and its stride. And I was like, fuck, we got to wait like 2 weeks now for the rest of it.
Right, exactly.
It was just getting to that spot where I was like, man, this is getting really good. They've had some big moments already, all the prospective team members from their own series have come together at some point, and it's really just building up to something that could be really cool. And to me, I feel like still the standout characters in the Defenders, and you can tell me how you feel about this, I think we're definitely Daredevil and Jessica Jones so far. Those are the two, that I feel like have really are almost really driving the show itself. Even though there's a lot of the story that's focused on the mythos and the backstory with Iron Fist, I feel like he's kind of, I don't want to say a side character, but I don't feel like he's got as much involved so far in the story as those other two people do.
I think part of what I see is the fact that because so many elements of this series so far are about the Hand and about the world of Iron Fist, that even though he's one of the leads, it's almost as if he's not necessarily like he's still kind of separate from the rest of the group. Right. And that's actually kind of working in his favor because he knows things that they don't, and he's seen things that they still don't believe. Yeah. And I think that's working because like both Jessica and Daredevil, like they don't believe anything that they're saying, and even Luke he's starting to believe what he believes in the consequences of what's happening, but he doesn't believe all this mystical crap that's going on around him. He just doesn't, and I like that dynamic. But I was like, my personal like standout from the series so far, Sigourney Weaver, like
absolutely,
she's every scene she's in is so dynamic. Like I
like on the edge of your seat. Like
yes, I'm like because I'm waiting for two things. I'm waiting to find out how powerful she is, and whether or not she's human. Like those two elements, I like. And so every scene I see her in, I'm trying to pick up clues because because she knows stuff. She knows things, and
Yeah.
she talks about them as if she was there first, as if she was there.
She'll let little things drop that you're like, oh,
yes,
she's a lot older than you think.
Exactly. So I wanted, so I like, so I anticipate her coming on the screen because I'm never disappointed when she's there.
Yeah, I don't think they could have made a better casting choice than to put her in the series, which I think is going to have a nice payout, and the fans are really going to enjoy what she's doing on the series. Christina, with what you've seen of the different Marvel Netflix shows, what's your initial hope for the Defender series? What are you hoping it brings?
Well, I've wanted them to come together since Jessica Jones came out. Yep. I'm just really excited to see their dynamic, and you guys were privileged enough to see that, at least the initial one. Especially Matt and Jessica. Mm-hmm. I'm really interested to see how they interact with one another. Right. I'm also hoping that they utilize Luke Cage a lot because he has a lot of really sweet powers. And while I loved Luke Cage a lot, I loved the first half of Luke Cage. I felt the second half of Luke Cage was, I don't know what happened. Like the writing just felt like it kind of crumbled, which sucked because it was so fantastic in the first half. And I feel like it was lost on the guy that, I'm sorry, I forgot the actor's name, the guy that plays Luke Cage.
Mike Coulter.
Thank you. And yeah, I'm just really interested how this is going to aim its way into Infinity War.
Yeah. They're
if it does,
which I hope it does.
I mean, but that's been the hope for the MCU since it began, since they said that it's all connected. There's you look for these threads, you look for them, and they're just, if they're not there, then you tend to be disappointed. So honestly, I don't even look for connections anymore. Like I don't. I'm one of those, I've kind of turned from looking for the connections and wanting them to be in the same universe to basically just kind of saying, okay, I love the MCU for what it is. I actually don't want it to touch the Netflix shows at all. Mm-hmm. Like I'm just, if it did, it would seem fake to me, just me personally. It would seem tacked on. And the same thing is just like, if Luke Cage were to ever show up on an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I just probably wouldn't buy it personally.
Yeah, I got you. I tend to be one of those people that I'm wondering. Question goes to you, Christina. How do you feel about? It seems like they've definitely made a conscious choice to not have any of the actors cross over into the Netflix series, and I mean, even some of the actors from the Netflix series themselves have, just very recently have talked about how, for example, the Charlie Cox, who plays Daredevil, hopes to get, Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow on Daredevil. So how do you feel about that choice that Marvel has made to not cross over their movie and their Netflix entities?
From the industry perspective, because I've worked in the industry, I understand why they wouldn't do it. It disappoints me, however, because one of the things that DC has done with their TV series is made it basically an alternate universe, and I hate that. That's why I can't actually watch any of their shows. It bothers me. It's like, why do we have Flash in the show, and then it's a different Flash who I happen to like in Justice League? Why can't it be the same actor? That makes no sense to me. So it's a little disappointing. Yeah, that's the biggest word I have for it is disappointing. I wish that they would thread them together a little bit more. Personally, for me, I think that would be really cool. They bring it up. They bring up mentions of it here and there, and they talk about certain characters, but they never actually have them in the show, and that's, why not? Just do it. You have the money. I believe.
Yeah, that was right. Yeah, and I'm with you. I was on board. Like the first 3 seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I was that guy. I was just like, every time they would reference something, I was like, oh, that's cool. And then when they had the little pre Age of Ultron scene in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I was like, okay, that's awesome. And I was there. I wanted it, but every time, but it was such a contrast between what they were teasing me with versus what the actors were saying, that I was just like, okay, I can't keep waiting around for this to happen. If it happens, hopefully I'll be surprised, but I'm just not looking for it anymore.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah, one of the obviously in the early season of when Agents of Shield started, they had Nick Fury make a cameo there, and that's definitely one of those cameos that obviously it made sense. They're Shield, he was the director of Shield, so in that context, that cameo was kind of very natural, and it made a lot of sense in the universe that they were building in Agents of Shield. But who do you guys feel, if any, of the characters from the MCU would actually make sense to cross over in one of the Netflix series?
Tony.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, for me, if money were no object, I'd absolutely agree with you, because because he's been such a part of the story from the beginning that it would absolutely make sense for Tony Stark to to show up on a Netflix series, or to have to hire an attorney for something he's done or inadvertently done. But
like, hey, Murdoch, I've been hearing great things about you. Why don't you come down? I got a couple of things I got to work out.
But honestly, like if I were to think of someone who would make sense to me, it would more than likely be I mean, I'd have to go through a filter of either someone that would do a television series, or at the very least do a cameo on a TV show, and where they're going with the next phase. I'd have to narrow it down to either Benedict Cumberbatch, Doctor Strange, or Star-Lord, Peter Quill.
Yes.
Chris Pratt. Like because the way they're going now, Phase 4 is going to be Mystic and Universal. So
I dig that hardcore. I dig it so hard.
Yeah. So I mean, those would be the two guys who not only would not have a problem doing a cameo on a TV show, but would more than likely have a cameo that would make sense. Going forward. Because everything else at this point, it would just be a callback to everything we've already seen. So
sure. I agree, man. That's a good spot to talk about some of our news that we got this week on the interwebs. Kind of a duh moment, but it seems like this week Guardians of the Galaxy 2 hit digital, and so already you've got all those very avid Easter egg hunters, pausing like crazy looking for little hidden gems that they often put in the MCU movies. And one of those was confirmed by James Gunn, obviously, that the Groot, and Christina, so we have to make fun of you because you haven't seen Guardians 2 yet, right?
I was in Ireland, and then I had to move to another state.
That's a good excuse. You were in Ireland.
So you do get a pass for that one.
And then it was gone out of theaters when I got back. So I will see it though, because Guardians is one of my favorites.
Yes. So obviously, that Groot is a baby and will at some point grow up to be not a baby anymore. And there was one of the end credit scenes in particular where a very adolescent, angsty, we'll say teenage Groot, getting into it with Peter Quill, Star-Lord, and they have confirmed that that's how you will see Groot in Avengers Infinity War. Deron, not a big spoiler or not a big piece of news, but you kind of figured it out if you've got a brain. And we've already seen that poster that came out of Comic-Con, that 3-piece Infinity War poster, which I'm bummed that I didn't. What do you think? What do you think is behind the choice to leave Groot as a teenager for Infinity War?
Well, I mean, considering that all of this is about kind of like the passage of time anyway, I think it's a great plot point to leave him as a teenager, because there's a possibility of, and as soon as I saw it and read this article, I was like, oh, Groot's going to attack Thanos, and Thanos is going to hit him with the time gem, and he's going to age him. So the best way to reflect that would be for Groot to still be an adolescent, because then you get to see that progression on screen. Like, I think that would be an awesome moment.
That would be.
I don't know how you didn't think about that. That sounds like something that very possibly will happen. Yeah, I think being that you haven't seen the movie, and obviously you've seen all the merchandise and the commercials. What were your thoughts about the whole Baby Groot thing?
That it's adorable as hell. And
Okay, good.
yeah, I love Groot so much. So
Yes.
I think that it's neat watching him in his different phases, because throughout the comics you kind of get to see little glimpses of it here and there.
Yeah.
And I love that. And it gives him a little bit more range, and also all the action figures, because it's all about the money. And I'm going to buy all of them.
Yes, action
Well,
figures.
and even like to that point, like even in Guardians, like as much, because I love Groot as a character.
Yeah,
like he, from a power perspective, like there are so many things that is, especially in Volume 2, if Groot were full grown, they literally could have cut like a lot of the plot out, because it would just been like, it literally would just been, well, Groot could have taken care of that,
Yeah,
or Groot could have done that. Or like that wouldn't even have gone this far if Groot had just, did this. So I think it absolutely made sense for Groot to be a baby, or to be small at that point, because it made him it still made him part of the team, but it also made him vulnerable, and actually kind of brought them all together, because you actually got to see a more family dynamic in Volume 2. With how
especially when they have this little creature to watch over.
Exactly. How they reacted to Groot and how they interacted with each other in regards to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's such a pure creature. I love him so much.
I know. I'm sorry. I know you haven't seen it, but just the little smile that Gamora gives him in the beginning of the movie.
He's like waving.
I know, that's just so cute. Oh, come on.
There's just like chaos going on. He's just kind of staying like, oh, hey, look, it's somebody I know and like.
Oh, I wanted to interject really quick before I forgot. For those of you who haven't gone on the Guardians ride at Disneyland yet, it's amazing. Like, I hated Tower of Terror. The ride itself was cool. The line weight was awesome. I always liked the Twilight Zone aspects, but I hated the ride because I don't like falling. So for me, the ride wasn't fun. It was actually terrifying. So I went on it again, though, because it's Guardians, and I was like, I have to go. And it was the funnest ride ever. I actually put my hands up, which I never did before. I always had my hands like death gripped onto the chairs. And I laughed. I was singing to the song. It was a lot of fun. They did a great job. So you still get the thrill and the drops, but you have so much fun doing it. It's way better than Tower of Terror.
I'm like literally wearing my Guardians of the Galaxy ride shirt and hat right now. You probably noticed it.
So good.
Like, that's how much I loved it. But yeah, I'm totally with you, Christina. I was one of the people that wasn't excited about the change, and then it came and I was like, wait, what was that other ride that used to be?
It's so good. It's amazing. It was such a freaking amazing choice for Disney to do. Also, there's now Gamora and Black Widow merchandise everywhere in there, and that made me really happy to see.
Yeah, it's good looking merchandise too. It's not crappy, like we just kind of second thought about it.
No, they have their own sections, and they actually have like action figures and like T-shirts, and it's awesome to see that finally.
The anti-Ike Perlmutter contingent and Marvel going, hey, you know what? All these female characters that we have, there are people who want to buy them.
Yes.
Yes. How weird is that?
That's strange.
So
yes,
exactly.
You mean they're women and they purchase things? That's crazy.
So Darren, another bit of Marvel Easter egg news from Guardians 2 specifically was that supposedly there was a scene where Rocket is flipping through destinations on a computer pad. And what's the name of the area? Is it Hala?
Hala.
Yeah, Hala, which is where Marvel is from, correct?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, and so that's already been spotted by some eagle-eyed Marvel fans. Do you think that this is a definite kind of like we're gonna see this character at some point in the MCU, because he has a lot to do with Captain Marvel, correct?
Yeah, I mean he was the original, Marvel. I mean he was original, so that it's already pretty much been established that the character is going to be in Captain Marvel, maybe not as a not as a lead, but as a flashback.
Right.
So I mean, and this I'm going off of I'm saying I'm 80% confident that the character will make an appearance in Captain Marvel. Maybe not as, as part of the plot, but I think he'll be there as a means of Carol getting her powers.
I think he kind of has to.
Yeah. So I mean, he's gonna have to at some point be a part of the film. And yes, I mean, just the reference in and of itself is fine, because I don't think it necessarily, I mean, I think it kind of teases it, but it's not blatant. And I think that, and which is what a good Easter egg should do.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I think it was more of, and again, I think we want to believe that all of these things are intentional, but I think sometimes, and sometimes they are, but I think sometimes it was just like, hey, let me just put a bunch of planets here because I think it'll be cool. Yeah. But then the fans are going to go nuts. It's like, what does it all mean?
Yeah. And then they got to go back and be like, okay, so we put this in there because
exactly. I mean, it's like what was it? It's like J.J. Abrams painting a tumbler from Dark Knight and pasting it to the Millennium Falcon. It's like you want to see those things. That's fine. It's cute when you finally see it, but don't have like a beautiful mind whiteboard where everything is connected by strings.
But it's hard.
Did you guys,
when you're a nerd not to do that?
Did you guys see 21 Jump Street?
Yes.
With Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill.
Yes.
So when you say that, I think of the scene when they take the drug and he's like writing on the whiteboard. He thinks he's like a genius. He's like x times the square root of 27 plus, and he's like boom. And there's like just scribbles written on the board. That's kind of how we do sometimes with these Marvel Easter eggs.
Yes. Exactly. That's how I feel like some of the fan theories for like Game of Thrones, for instance, where you're like, what?
Yes.
No.
What?
I think
no, Luke is not Snoke. Stop it. I will smack you.
Yeah.
Yes.
At the very least, it means people are thinking. What they're thinking about makes absolutely no sense. But
sure.
But
trying, right?
But a couple of synapses are firing somewhere.
Oh, that's good. Oh man. Speaking of other big Marvel news this week, we got our first look at the fully suited Josh Brolin as Cable from the upcoming Deadpool 2. Now, Christina, I'm going to ask you about this first because I know you know a lot about X-Men and mutants and things. What do you feel of as far as if they nailed the look of Cable or if they nailed it for the movie universe? What's your thoughts?
Ooh, it's somewhere in between because they definitely added things for the fans like the teddy bear, which for those of you who might not be familiar with Cable, it's for Hope Summers, who he's basically the guardian of. So that little bit, it's just cool whether we see Hope or not in the movie, whatever. I like that little piece. His face is perfect. They got the eye right, the scars right. And then, they did a perfect like melding of the two. So movie universe and comic book.
Yeah. Darren, what do you think?
Not enough pouches.
Needs more pouches.
Nope.
At least 5 more. 5.
Pouches, big old shoulder pads. Nah.
Yes.
I'm just not buying it.
Yes. I need
full-on Liefeld.
In this movie. Yes. I'm talking like size of a truck on his shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I need to see a weapon with like 4 triggers that are 5 feet apart from each other. That even with both hands you couldn't fire.
I mean, that's reasonable.
You have to hit one with your feet.
Thank you. I mean,
yes.
Exactly. How is he going to fire a weapon that has like a barrel that's 5 feet long? I mean, I don't see how that's going to work. But no, in all seriousness, he looks great. He looks absolutely amazing.
I know very little about Cable, the character, and he looks cool as hell, man. I think it's gonna look really cool, alongside of Ryan Reynolds and Domino and all the other people that are coming back for Deadpool 2. So it should be interesting. I have this weird thing. I don't feel it's really stupid. It's just one of my weird comic book movie things, but I honestly don't like it when the same actor plays like 2 different characters in the same universe. Even though Josh Brolin only lends his voice to Thanos, it still bugs me. I'm like, you can't be Thanos in Cable. It doesn't make any sense. But it's just one of my weird things.
But here's the thing, like you got him doing the motion capture for Thanos. He's full on Cable. He's
right.
He's been doing so many of these. Like at this point, it's almost ubiquitous. I mean, he was Jonah Hex. He was
I forgot about that movie. Ooh.
Yeah, I'm sure
probably for good reason.
Yeah,
there was reason too, but I actually kind of mined his IMDb page to write an article about how he's won the award for most comic book characters played by the same actor. So because he was also young K in Men in Black 3. So I mean he's so he's kind of I think he's just kind of doing what he enjoys, and I've yet to, with the exception of Jonah Hex, really kind of not
Sorry.
Oh, and Dwight in Sin City: A Dame to Kill For. So I mean
that movie wasn't good either.
It wasn't, but at some point, but it's almost like it's almost like he raided a comic book shop and said, you know what, I think I'll do this one next.
That's life goals right there, man.
Exactly. So I mean, the fact that they want him, and the fact that he does it, and the fact that even if the movie's not good, he's actually pretty good in it, means he's gonna keep doing. He's gonna keep doing them, and I'm gonna probably keep going to see them. Except for John.
Keep paying money. Yes.
Except John Hex, unless they redo it with, not what's her name in it, and maybe it'll be okay.
Oh, your favorite actress, Megan Fox?
Yes, that's her name.
Yes. That's good. All right, guys. One more last bit of geek news. The upcoming reboot of the Hellboy franchise. We talked a little bit about it last week, Darren, with the addition of Ian McShane to the cast, and now the big buzz, the big talks is that a lady who is no stranger to the horror genre, Miss I can never say her name right. Is it Mila Jovovich?
Mila Jovovich is now in talks to play the villain. I believe is her name.
Yeah. Well, it was originally.
Christina, I think you've read a lot of Hellboy books, haven't you, Christina?
Yes.
You've read some. This is a character that has been seen in the comics, correct?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. I personally, I've always enjoyed her work. She's obviously done some very like a wide variety of movies that she's done, and she's done some really out there ones like that Three Musketeers movie.
Yes, I have
still cool.
Wide variety.
which was still sexy in a way, but really kind of weird. But what do you think? Do you think bringing people like this to this movie leaves you a little more open for excitement to the Hellboy reboot? Because I'm still kind of on the fence. I love Ron Perlman and Guillermo del Toro, and
I'm so on the fence. I'm so on the fence because I really love Guillermo del Toro, and Ron Perlman's the only person that I can see as Hellboy. Coming from someone who did read the comics, especially right in college and stuff, and like kind of had a giant crush on Big Red. Like Ron Perlman is perfect. He's so good. However, the person they cast, I am a huge Stranger Things fan also, and he is really great. So I'm going to give it a chance.
Correct.
I'm still not sure. I feel like I'm cheating on my significant other, but
dare you.
Yeah, it feels dirty, but like I have to give it a chance because I love Hellboy, and maybe they'll have a good fresh perspective. Maybe it'll stick closer to the comics.
Yeah. So is that possibility? Darren, what were you going to say about Hellboy in the cast?
Well, I mean, I'm with both of y'all on the consensus that I'm willing to give it a chance. I think I'm more willing to give it a chance because Mike Mignola is writing it, like he's co-writing it. So I mean, you got. Did not know that. Yes, I mean you got the creator of the characters like co-writing the script, so it's going to be a perspective that, I mean, as much, and I don't take anything away from Del Toro. I'm a huge Del Toro fan. Pan's Labyrinth is still one of my favorite films.
So good,
great,
yeah. Oh, Devil's Backbone, like I love him. But and I love Ron Perlman as well. But I like David Harbour. I like him as an actor. I liked him as an actor before Stranger Things. I like him as an actor on Stranger Things. I loved him on the Newsroom on HBO. So
about That's where I've seen him before. It's driving me nuts. I'm glad you said that because I don't know how to Google apparently.
Yes, I'm human. I'm human Wikipedia. So I'm absolutely on board to give it a shot, just because I think it's going to be small. I think it's going to be grounded, and I think they're gonna take it in a much darker direction that I'm kind of looking forward to. And I think just having Mignola on board means I'm probably going to get a lot more BPRD stuff and a lot of comic characters that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Right. I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you all the way. Quick funny story to interject. The restaurant that I worked at when I was living in Los Angeles for about a year and a half-ish, one of my managers, who oddly enough was from the same small town in the Fresno area from Clovis, and we actually went to the same high school just at different times. She ended up being my manager at this restaurant in Los Angeles, which I thought was so bizarre. But anyways, and not a person I know to be a compulsive liar, would just make shit up. I guess she went to the same gym as Mignola's wife or girlfriend. I can't remember exactly, but she was always telling me, she's like, oh yeah, she's always talking about these random ass dreams that he has. I'm like, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
That would explain Hellboy.
Yeah.
Well, well, you better. I'm just saying, I would tell her, stop complaining, because those dreams are those dreams are paying the mortgage.
Bless his fucked up dream. That's awesome.
Yes. Blessed it all. All right, guys. Beautiful. So for our last segment of the night, that used to be so famously called Our Week in Geek, we're now changing it, and I thought it would be really cute and obnoxious at the same time to call it the Wide World of Geek. So that's the WWG on the GWW. And because the world of geek is so wide and vast, it's each one of our moments to talk about anything we did geeky during the week, read, watched, played, bought, any of the above. So let's start out with our first segment of the WWG with Mr. Deron Generally. What did you do this week in the Wild World of Geek, Deron?
Well, I mean, I write daily. I'm always writing. So if I'm not writing, I'm reading. So I got to go with the comics. I just read just every time I say it, Secret Empire #8.
Deron?
Yes. It's like it's like the world's worst relationship that I keep going back to, because this time it's going to be different. This time I can change them.
Deron, she's already cheated you. She's already sent texts to your best friend, she's sent pictures, and you still keep going back.
Right. She slashed my tires. She slept with my brother. And yet I can't escape her. But #8, not bad. Not a bad comic. Wasn't necessarily still a good one, but I'll give you what I actually was able to boil it down to. The reason why it was such a good issue, there was not one piece of dialogue from Steve Rogers. Not one.
Like the title character?
Thank you. You saw him once.
You can't see my hands. They're in the air praising Jesus.
Right.
Yes.
You saw him once. He said nothing.
Yes.
And I thoroughly enjoyed
nothing. I hate him.
Yes.
I don't hate him. That's a strong word. He bothers me.
Yes.
We'll say that.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, it was interesting. It was an interesting issue. I mean, you saw Sam take up the mantle of Captain America again. All the heroes making kind of getting off the mat and being heroes again finally. And then you have and then Namor just kind of shows up with a mystery character that was actually worth revealing. Like it was actually like if you haven't read Captain America #25, then you'll be thoroughly surprised. But I did read Captain America #25 just because that one I didn't like, because that one was that one has like Hydra take Atlantis and Wakanda, and in like one panel, like one page each. I'm like, come on, Like you're not going to take Wakanda in one page.
But, no. Oh no.
But it was used to drive the story along. But they made a revelation in there that that they moved over to Secret Empire #8 that I think is going to be can be great going forward. And I think that's probably the only good out of this entire like 10-issue arc. #8's the only issue I've enjoyed.
Okay.
And yet I'm still going to read #9 because I'm a masochist. Because I am a masochist.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to be continually hurt by Nick Spencer and these people.
Yes. Darren, put the arsenic drink down, please, and just away. Yes.
Pure poison, right here. More ways than one.
It's beautiful. Cool, buddy. Anything else for this week?
Well, since we're talking about comics and film, Universal just announced a release date for Chris Pratt's Cowboy Ninja Viking.
What?
Cowboy Ninja? Wait a minute. Hold on. Did you just say Cowboy Ninja Viking?
Have you not heard of Cowboy Ninja Viking?
Clearly not, because I have a lady boner, sir. You have to tell me.
I saw the face that Christina just made, so that's why I had to pause there for a minute.
Okay. I'll sum it up to you because I wrote about it on my website. So it's on my website, superpoweredfancast.com.
Okay.
But it's an Image comic, and it revolves around a secret government counterintelligence initiative called the Triplet Program. And what they did in a Triplet Program is that they take people with multiple personality disorders and they condition them to be able to access the skills of those personalities.
What?
Oh, wow.
So yeah. So it's about, and then when the project fails, and I've read the comic, that's the reason why I wrote about it, because I love the comic so much. When the project fails, they send their best operative, Duncan, who has the ability to channel the abilities of a cowboy, a ninja, and a Viking.
Fudge.
To hunt down the other triplets.
Okay.
To hunt down the other triplets in the program, because they've been hired out as guns for hire. So you actually will have him go after people who have the triplet personalities of a porn star Bigfoot and and a baseball player, or like a Starbucks barista. But it's such a great comic that I love the fact that they're making it into a movie, and they've cast, well, they haven't cast, but the executive producer and star who's going to be playing Duncan is Chris Pratt.
Yeah,
I'm trying to wrap my brain around like Chris Pratt just jumping from like being a cowboy to a ninja to a Viking.
I can see him being the cowboy and the Viking. Yeah, the ninja part I'm struggling with, but I'm intrigued, and I still have a lady boner, so I will see it.
That's it. If you go to if you look at the article on the website, I actually have a panel that kind of shows that a panel from the comic that shows the conversation between all three characters in his head. Like it's so surreal and fun, and it is ultra violent. So it's amazing. Awesome. It's amazing both story and story wise and visually. But yeah, I'm sorry, to just get to the point of that is that there's a release date for the movie for June of 2019.
All right.
So it's coming
shaping up to be a big year for movies, man.
And Star Wars Land.
Yeah, and the only thing that's going to be competing against it during that time slot is going to be the next Transformers.
So, who cares?
You mean not competing against it?
Michael Bay should seriously stop now. He can stop anytime now. That would be great.
Yeah.
Yes. Beautiful. Christina, what?
No, he's not done yet. You're not done yet.
Oh no! I was just saying the one last thing I wanted to talk about is just the whole Disney Netflix thing.
Oh yeah.
Do you I don't understand this whole like everybody all of a sudden is starting their own streaming channel.
I think
what
you're looking at is
financially. It's kind of a dick move, but it makes sense for them financially to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're going for. I think that's the perspective, is that at some point, you know, I think at some point you're going to look at like, is I honestly, like, personally, I don't have cable. Like I have the services that I pay for, and I think that's kind of what I think they're kind of seeing so many people cutting the cord on cable that they're just like, the people will pay for the premium services that they want,
which I do.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, I do the same thing. So that's kind of why they're looking at, hey, you know what, we can offer them this, and it's just pure profit for us, and we're not having to deal with like you know, third parties and all that. So, but it's still kind of
that is now you're going to be paying like as much as you would pay for cable to get all your different channels that you want different things from.
Exactly.
Eventually.
Yeah.
That's the downside.
At least you have a better option at least you have the option to drop those individual things when you don't want them anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Like when I drop HBO when Game of Thrones is over.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And Star Wars when American Gods is over, I was like, yeah, I'll redo my subscription
when it comes back.
Just do like the 7-day trials under a new name.
Just keep doing it.
Exactly. That's why it's good that my parents don't even know how to work a computer. I just borrow their information. Make up an email for mom, one for dad. That's good, buddy. All right, Christina, what do you got this week?
Well, my comics are still being mailed to me because I still get my comics in LA from my favorite comic shop.
Nice.
And from Earth to Comics, which is, I'm not sure anyone who's listening, if you are in LA, that is my comic shop, and they're amazing.
Yes.
Still playing Pokemon Go every day. I walk my dog because I'm that kind of nerd.
Yes.
And I know it's not this last week, but I did come back from Comic-Con, and I do feel like I'm still recovering from that. And I do have some swag, which is cool.
Show it, girl. Show it.
Yeah. So I forgot those were hiding in there. I got the Shiva Force box set. And if you're watching, I'm showing you because it's so awesome. And the best part was, and they made it like this. So like you can actually display it appropriately. It was really smart packaging. But if you wanted to open it, you still could. And then they look like this, like when they pull it out. And he was sold separately. This is Jesus.
So if you're not watching, the Shiva Force set was kind of like a fun like playoff of the old school G.I. Joe figures that had that really distinct packaging with like the bright like sun flare behind the characters. And you know, every once in a while they would do like these like themed like teams, like, oh, we're like the Crimson Snakes, and they were all wearing red, like different like shades of red. So they like went full on, the guys at Skybound, and they did this whole like, you know, we'll turn them into Shiva Force, and they're all wearing like tiger stripes, and the box looks like a freaking old school G.I. Joe.
Yeah, it's the coolest. And the
best
part was when I went to the Skybound booth. When I went to the Skybound booth, they were like, bloody or not bloody? I'm like, excuse me? They're like, the figure, bloody or not bloody? I'm like, oh, bloody as hell. Hell yeah.
Yeah, there's a choice? What?
Yeah.
Every time you hold it up, I just like Walking Dead.
Yes.
Walking Dead.
The real apocalypse hero.
Exactly.
I'm also showing you there's also exclusive comic book covers.
Yeah.
Which you could only get at Comic-Con. And that's not it. I'm showing you. That was just the secret cool envelope.
I missed those. I would have at least bought those.
Yeah, they sold out really quick, I think. I think they were, because the Shiva Force box was $100 at the con. So I'm trying to eliminate the glare here so I can show each one. Yeah. But we have Jesus. I still love it. Yeah. He's called Jesus.
Rick with
Handless Rick.
Christina, Rick looks like Rick's color scheme on that cover. On the cover of that with Rick, he reminds me of Battle Cat from He-Man with the green and the orange.
Yes. Yeah. Dude. I just realized that Shiva in the shirt Shiva has a knife or a dagger in her mouth. That's awesome.
Yes.
And then Ezekiel, and then Shiva. And then a Negan one.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Negan.
If you guys haven't watched the commercial for it, by the way, you have to go to YouTube. Look up the Shiva Force commercial. It is amazing. It's just like an old G.I. Joe commercial with little kids. And my favorite part is the little girl screaming, "Why are you Fuck you, Shiva
Yes.
Force.
Yes, that was
It's
so
what
awesome. I
told me on the
died.
box that I had to have it. But
Died
Yeah.
when she said that.
fuck you, Shiva Force. So
I said Walking
I'll be
Dead.
back with more allies.
yeah, that's really. Other than that, I'm still getting adjusted. As some of you know, Brian and I just moved to Texas, so I'm still unpacking stuff. My craft room. I'm sitting on the floor in my craft room. Nothing is unboxed in here, so I haven't really done a whole hell of a lot.
Yes, it's all right, friend. So you've got a good excuse. Let's see. This week, and Darren, I wanted to chat with you just real quick about it. I read Mr. Miracle #1 by a alumni of the Capes Cruise show, Mr. Tom King, who we've gotten the opportunity to talk to plenty of times. He's a great guy. Mr. Now, this admittedly is one of those characters that I know nothing about. Okay, this is the first time I've ever actually read a comic book with Big Barda in it. So that was actually no, I take that back. I think I was read it, but anyways, right now I'm really confused as who the hell Mr. Miracle is, like what his deal is. Clearly, there's some dealings with Darkseid.
Okay.
I don't know, Darren. What do you know about it? Because I know you wrote a review about it.
Okay, so just like a little quick synopsis. There's a deal in place between New Genesis and Apocalypse, and part of that deal was that that the son of the leader, like Highfather's son from New Genesis, would be traded for Darkseid's son on Apocalypse.
Yeah.
So that deal has happened more than once. So the first deal was the reason why Darkseid got Calabac. And Highfather got Orion.
Okay.
So another one of those deals was he actually Darkseid got Highfather's son Scott free.
Yeah. Okay.
That's which I still think is one of the best like kind of comic book names ever. Now Scott was raised on Apocalypse. He was actually raised and trained by Granny Goodness, and one of the things that's always been a staple of Scott is that he could escape from anything. So the reason why he spent so much time being tortured on Apocalypse is because he kept escaping. And so he escaped to Earth, and he became an illusionist, an escape artist, a really famous one called Mr. Miracle. And he escaped with Barda, who became his wife, and his like kind of handler and trainer Oberon, and that's kind of like really short synopsis of what. And I loved this story. Like I'm a huge fan of Tom King as a writer, but I actually
he's great.
I really loved this story because it was from a person who knows about the character. It was classic. It was classic Mr. Miracle. It was all the things that I enjoyed about Mr. Miracle, but also from a perspective of a mystery that I'm still kind of wrapping my head around with this first issue. Just because he's always been able to escape from every trap that he's either ever been laid for him or he's ever laid for himself. And it just seems like he's trapped he's caught in the ultimate trap. Yeah. And everything around him is strange. Everything around him is different but exactly the same. And he can't decide what's real and what's not. So the mystery is what's really caught me.
Yeah. The thing you said about, everything is strange to him and everything's kind of mystery. I think the artist, Mitch Gerards, really did a good job of really hitting that point home with the style that he chose to illustrate this book in. The best way for me to describe it is it's like you're flipping channels and you don't know what any of the channels are showing really. You're just catching snippets here and there. And it was really cool. Like a lot of the frames were kind of blurry and distorted. The color scheme, to me, it was like almost like it was all the colors of his costume. So the yellow, the green, and the white, all kind of done in different tones and mixes. I think that was a really interesting choice that the artist chose to use in this book. And as far as the written words, I like you, man. I'm a huge fan of Tom King. I think he's an awesome writer, and I'm really just hooked into anything that he writes. So even though I know very little about the character, this is a book that I'm definitely going to give a good solid chance and see where they take it. Because like I said, I always like reading about characters that I'm not familiar with. And I mean, obviously, being that this is part of the DC, and Superman's kind of always linked with Darkseid and things like that, I kind of know some of the names, but I don't really know the characters intimately. So I'm definitely excited to check this out and see where it goes, especially since Tom King's writing the story. So I'm all about that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I've enjoyed about Rebirth is not even just the the trinity of characters, your Batman, your Wonder Woman, your Superman, and their their co-stars and their worlds and their families, but they've done a really good job of reintroducing characters you didn't really think about too often, and giving them some really interesting story arcs. Like I really enjoyed, like, even beyond Mr. Miracle, I really enjoyed the fall and rise of Captain Atom. And Captain Atom was one of those characters that was never really that interesting before. I mean, in my opinion, like he was always like, this being of pure energy, where if you pierced his suit, he'd have to fly up in space so he could explode himself.
Right.
Like that was from a concept wise, that was always weak to me, but they really made me care about that character with that arc. But coincidentally, co-plotted by Greg Weisman, who is the mastermind behind both Gargoyles and Young Justice. So
yeah,
a man who knows how to build a world, as it were.
Absolutely. Thank you for filling me in on some of the details, buddy. I feel like I understand that book a little bit more now.
Yeah.
The other two books I checked out because I was a little bit behind on this comic was Violent Love by another gentleman who is no stranger to the GW dubs, Mr. Frank Barberi. The art is by Victor Santos. And I don't know if Christine, I don't think you've heard me talk about this book, but it's definitely like a modern day Bonnie and Clyde story that's based off true events. So if you like good old fashioned like heist movies, if you like heist and shooting things, and if you want to throw a romance into this, you're gonna love this book because it's a lot of fun.
Check that out.
It's definitely a story of revenge, a vendetta, and finding somebody who completes you along the way of your crazy revenge story. And in these two books, we see that it's not such a good idea to start robbing banks from, I guess, would be equivalent to the mob. You don't want to rob banks, that are owned by the mob. Bad things start to happen. So
that's just good advice for everyone. So I mean,
I agree.
Solid.
But yes. But I always love this very like, pulpy, like old school art that Santos puts in these books. You'll get pages where it's just like one or two colors going across, and it's very rough sketches. And I really think it kind of adds to some of the more chaotic scenes where people are getting like their faces blown away or limbs blown off, explosions happening. It creates a really cool picture in those settings in this book. So I guess it took a bit of a hiatus, which is fine because I was behind on that book anyways. But and you can get the first 5 issues in a trade now. So Violent Love is one of my favorite not big publisher books right now. So definitely check that out. But
who's the distributor on that one? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Is it Image, Dark Horse?
That's from Image.
Aha.
Yeah, Imagio. Yeah, so it's good. It's a good one. It's a fun one. But that's it, guys. That's it for our first episode. So Mr. Deron, generally tell our listeners, please, where they can find and follow you on the interweb, sir.
Well, I mean, you can, of course, read my articles and reviews and interviews on Geeks Worldwide at thegww.com. You can also read articles and reviews I've written on my site, superpoweredfancast.com. You can follow me on the Twitters at superpoweredfan. And you can always email me, superpoweredfancast@gmail.com.
Wonderful, Deron. Thanks, man, for being back for the new show, man. It's always awesome having you by my side to delve in the deep waters of the geek world. Christina Tellefson, my awesome friend, tell our listeners and followers where they can find you on this lovely world of ours.
So on the Twitters and on the Instagrams, I am BoobaFett83. There is an underscore between Booba and Fett, so it's basically Boba with an extra O, because boobs.
Yes.
But BoobaFett83 is my handle for pretty much every form of social media. So pretty easy. And also, my last name is Tellefson, and I'm the only one who exists, so I'm really easy to find.
Super. My friend, couldn't be happier to have you on tonight, and I hope you're going to stick around for a while because we love listening to you and having you part of our voice.
Well, I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Anytime, my friend. And listeners, followers, friends, and fams, tweet us on the Twitter. Our Twitter is at _geek side pod, and tell us what you thought about our first episode. Tell us how amazing you think Christina is and how she needs to be here with us all the time, and you definitely want her back. Anything else you want to tell us? Feedback. We love hearing from our followers on Twitter and all of our other social medias. Please continue to check our site out at thegww.com for all the latest in comics, movies, tech, video games. I mean, we constantly have new stuff going up on the site every single day. There's something for everybody on there. I just completed my interviews with the cast of the CW's Black Lightning. Those will be going up on the site hopefully within the next 2 days. The videos are done, have been loaded. I'm waiting for my good friend Casey Walsh to help me out on posting them on the site. Those will be up hopefully this week, and you should check it out. Had a great time talking with the whole cast. So you can find us there on Twitter as well. You can find me personally at DarthSparrow, where I'm always posting about random stuff with the rest of the crew. And we thank you for joining us tonight for episode 1 of the Geek Side Podcast. We hope you'll join us next week when we'll see what else we can bring you from the world of geek. And as always, because I've dropped it every single episode from day 1, what side are we going to catch you on, guys? We're going to catch them on the Geek Side.